control. Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the, Thursday edition of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond, our little micro episode of the Paranormal Portal. I hope you're having a great night, and it's almost Friday again. You got to love that the holidays kind of break up half the week, and boom, you're back to Friday, which tomorrow night is Friday, so I hope you guys will be here then, because Deb will be joining us to do free psychic readings on the Paranormal Portal to callers of the show, so make sure you tune in tomorrow night. But before that, well, we got bedtime stories, so hurry up. It's time for bed. And everybody, I just thrilled you're all here. I was seeing all and greeting everybody that was coming in. I see Don came in now too, and that's great. Lady Death, how you doing? And I said hello to everybody else in the chat. That's kind of why I let the intro roll out, because everybody's just pouring in and wanted to greet everybody. So welcome to the show, everybody, and I hope you're having a great night, and hope you're all recovering from the holiday blur that just happened at the beginning of the week. And again, I hope your holidays were absolutely wonderful, and you had a wonderful time with those that you love and hold dear. So welcome to the Bedtime Stories from Beyond, and tonight we're going to talk about adventures in babysitting. We kind of touched on this a little bit last night, and I found a bunch of stories about people that have had paranormal encounters while babysitting. So I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun tonight. Since we kind of touched on it, I was like, that'd be a neat little show all by itself. So that's what I've done tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And, I kind of feel bad for those people that have these paranormal occurrences while they're babysitting, because when you're babysitting someone else's kids, I mean, let's say you're home alone and weird things start happening. It's one thing, and it can be incredibly potent, incredibly unnerving. It can be incredibly spooky. But when you are also in charge of a little life that's not your child, and you are all responsible to make sure this child is okay, and things go sideways, that's a whole different kind of panic. That's a whole different kind of energy. And I feel terrible for those people that have had those things happen, because you're not in your own home usually anyway. I mean, yeah, you can be babysitting your little siblings or whatever. But normally, in most cases, babysitting, you're in somebody else's home and you're with their stuff, with with their children. And meanwhile, they're out having a good time, getting a break from the kids. And you're already not really comfortable because it's not home. You don't know it. You're not really as comfortable or familiar with it. But then if something starts happening, something weird that you can't really wrap your head around, I mean, what do you do? So I can imagine that the panic factor goes up by about a multiple of at least 10 on that deal, because you're you're the first line of defense. You're the only line of defense in many cases to make sure that everything is okay. So I thought that'd be kind of cool to cover those tonight. So that's what we're going to get into, ladies and gentlemen. But let's see, anybody else come in I want to say hello to? No, I think, Diane. Hey, Diane. See you came in. Orochimaru, good to see you. Everybody, welcome to the show. There's just so many people piling in. That's awesome. Oh, Jim. How you doing, Jim? And, yeah, I think that's it so far. But if I missed you, I'm sorry. I just can't just scroll through the list. I wish they would give me a list on YouTube. That's the one thing that would be nice, if they give me a channel list, active chatters or active viewers. Then I could see, who it is and say hello and greet them properly. But I do the best I can. So I hope that, hope it's good enough. But anyway, let's get into these stories and see what you guys think of some adventures in babysitting. I did totally rip off the title from that movie. The original movie was good. I don't know. I think they made a remake of it or something like that. And I don't know if that was as good, but I remember the original movie was really pretty fantastic back in the 80s. And I'm dating myself now, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So I was a big fan of Thor, and when that mechanic comes out looking like Thor and then he puts on the helmet and stuff, I was like, oh, no way. That's so cool. So anyway, back to the show. One Saturday night, I was babysitting this little boy, and I told him it was time to go to bed and put him in his room. And as soon as I placed him on the bed, wait a minute. This is the one I read last night. No. Okay, I'm going to skip this. I'll actually pull up another one. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to just read through these other ones. This is the one I read last night, though. Sorry, man. I'm I left it open because it had a bunch of links to the other ones, and I didn't realize I didn't close it after I pulled up the links. So let me get to this next one, and I will make sure there's an additional one to replace that one at the end. I promise I'm not shortchanging you here in the portal. I will bring you all the entertainment you've got coming. I'll bring you every bit of entertainment you paid for. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a joke. All right. One night I was asked to babysit for my mom's friend, and this story comes out of Ireland, so they say, Mum. Hi, Mum. She had already told me that ghostly happens were common in her house, so I was a little bit frightened, but kind of thought that nothing would really happen. As I was babysitting and also had to stay overnight, which I was a little bit scared about, but anyways, I was staying and everything was fine until I had gone to bed. And as I went to bed, I decided to listen to my iPod, as I was scared and I would hear anything. I was scared and I would hear anything. I think she meant wouldn't hear anything. And as I was listening, I heard banging and thought that it was a song, but then I took off my earphones and the banging stopped. I was getting tired, so I switched it off and tried to doze off, and as I was dozing off, I heard footsteps going up the stairs, and they were really loud footsteps. I tried to pretend that I didn't hear it until the noises outside my bedroom just got louder and louder, and I started to hear shuffling and running up and down the hall, so I looked out to see if it was the kids, but it wasn't. They were all asleep. So I quickly closed the door, and as I was dozing off again, two big, massive bangs went off in the kitchen, as if someone was banging on the doors. I heard these noises all night, and I could not sleep, and this went on for hours. I was so terrified, I didn't know what to do. The bedroom that I was staying in, I also heard footsteps outside the room and shuffling of feet, and it sounded like a child, but I know all the children that I was babysitting were in their beds. All I heard the rest of the night was banging doors, footsteps outside my room, and running, and I definitely don't think I will be babysitting in a hurry again. That's got to be tough. I mean, if you're a teenager yourself and you have to act as the adult, yeah, that would be pretty precarious. The next one is, let's see, this one comes out of California from 2010. It says, I used to absolutely love babysitting until 2006. It was March, just past my birthday, and I was so happy because after being out of work for 3 months, I finally got another babysitting job from my neighbor down the street, and I had to watch their 3 kids. Angie, age 12, Tanya, age 7, and Dylan, who's 10 years old, were all real good kids, and the family was totally rich, so I was sure the fridge would be packed. Lucky 16-year-old me, the fridge had everything. This isn't a happy story, though. It was about 3 p.m., and Tanya and Dylan were napping, and I and Angie were sitting on the couch watching television and eating some chips, and the doorbell rang. I answered it, and no one was there. Ooh, that's spooky. I thought it must have been broken or something because Angie told me that happens a lot. I sat down, and the TV turned off. I thought I sat on the remote, but then I saw it on the kitchen table, so I turned it back on like nothing, and nothing else happened. Then on day 3 of babysitting, the parents were late, and it was about 12, and the kids were asleep, but I wasn't lonely because I brought my boyfriend with me, and we were on the couch almost asleep when we heard screaming. We rushed upstairs to see which one of the kids was screaming, but when we got there, they were all asleep and snoring. We waited in Angie's room to see if it was her in her sleep, but the radio she had on her dresser started blaring Hannah Montana music, which is absolutely terrifying all by itself. That was my own little editorial there, which totally woke up all the kids, and so we went downstairs and got them water, and we were all tired, but for some reason couldn't get to sleep. When the parents got home, they were mad that we had the kids up, but we told them the story, and they said they believed us. Weird things like that happened all the time. Last thing, but definitely not least on our way out, we saw like 10 kids singing in the front yard. We were so tired of all this. My boyfriend grabbed my hand and rushed me to the car with my eyes closed. I want to know if anyone else has had an experience babysitting with ghosts or anything similar. Now I'm a manicurist and doing fine, but have turned down every babysitting opportunity I get. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that one. It's possible, I guess, but the whole, there's a choir of kids singing in the yard, but we just closed our eyes. That seems like, I don't know. Could you just close your eyes? Could you just ignore it and just put it in a story as just a little subtext? I don't know. That seems to me to be the most profound experience of the night. And she just kind of glides over it. So, I don't know. I couldn't know either way. Actually, most of these stories could be fictional for all I know. I mean, I just find them and read them for you guys. But if it is true, it's pretty incredible. But again, if only 1% of what I read you is true, that's still pretty phenomenal. All right, so I'm just looking at the end of this one to see if there's any links for any further babysitting stories. The next one is I only had a few experiences, but this one took place a couple of weeks ago when I was babysitting my little cousin. It was about 10:30 a.m., and I decided to take my little 2-year-old cousin to the park just to get her some exercise, to get her tired out for a little nap. And we were there for almost 2 hours when I figured it was about time to leave. So me, Shy, it's time to go home. She didn't answer me. From where she was standing, you could see a path that goes into the basketball court. Me, Shyla, is someone walking through the path? No answer, but she starts smiling and laughing. Shyla, is someone standing there? No, Kay, someone on the bench. At this point, I was so scared, I took Shyla and ran back to my uncle's house, and later that day, I told her mother what had happened, and she was pretty surprised, but she 100% believed it. But later on, we asked her who she had seen. Shyla, who was at the park with you today? And Shyla says, Grammy. Grammy is the name we called my grandmother, who died 6 years ago from cancer. So Shyla has never seen her. She only knows what she looks like from pictures before she had gotten sick with cancer. So I believe my grandma was saying hi, or maybe comforting her, seeing her dad was sentenced to jail that day, and his court was going on at the same time. But my question is, why didn't I see her too? I'm not that old. I'm only 15. So, it just seems like there is a pretty profound difference between that childhood innocence at, toddler size versus teenager. And perhaps it's the distractions, perhaps it's just growing up, perhaps it's puberty. I don't know what it could be, but there does seem to be a lot of people that claim that they could see things when they were younger do tend to, lose. I don't want to say lose the ability, but I think it changes as they get older. And they probably have to keep it open by actively working on it. And, how you do that, I don't know. I guess Deb or Sean or Diane or Joel could tell us more about that. But I think that it's something to do with just our bodies changing and whether or not we're still able to filter that. And it could just be drinking more fluoridated water for a long time and shutting down your pineal gland, 2 years of fluoridated water versus 15, I mean, I really believe there's something to that. Whatever you believe is what you believe, but I truly believe that nutrition is key to having these abilities open, and cleansing our bodies would be necessary to configure that mechanism or reawaken that mechanism in us. So I think that there might be something to that it might be more nutritionally based or less exposure to a lot of toxins that are regularly introduced in our processed foods and water and et cetera, air, you name it. Our bodies are constantly under attack from these chemical things in our world. So, yeah, it's too bad. I guess it would be great if she could have seen her grandmother too, but, it doesn't seem to be uncommon. Just looking at the chat. Okay. But good story. I like that story. And this one it's called Babysitting Horror. Babysitting Horror. I was staying with my mom for a few weeks in Canada, along with a couple of cousins, and this comes out of Canada from 2010. Cousins, aunts, and just friends. And one night they told me that they wanted to get a little break from the chaos and all, so they asked me if I'd babysit the kids for an hour or two. I said yeah, and they took off, and I put cartoons on for the kids to watch while I cooked dinner, and I was in the kitchen in the basement with the kids when I heard the garage door open up. It hadn't even been an hour yet, so I figured that maybe they'd forgotten their wallet or something like that, but I had to check anyway, so I walked out and called out for them and didn't hear anything. So I went out and checked the garage, and the car was still gone, and it wasn't opened or anything. So I just thought, it was probably just the next door neighbors or the television show the kids were watching. I didn't know, but it wasn't the garage. We ate dinner in the family room basement, and we were still watching TV when suddenly there was super bad static, and the TV turned off, along with the overhead lights. The only lights that we had that were on were the lights upstairs. The kids and I were really pretty freaked out by this, so I told them it was probably just out of electricity. So we went upstairs, and I felt a draft, and I looked at the garage door, and it was wide open along with the garage door itself. So I, of course, thought it was someone in the house. I went and checked out all the bedrooms. Nothing. Suddenly, the power went on again along with the TV, and I thought it was really weird how those could have gone out if they hadn't died or run out of electricity. I don't know how you run out of electricity. I don't know. It's not like you got to fill it up before you turn on the TV or something. Anyway, maybe she's trying to say that it was cut off or something. I don't know. But, or anything, and I have all the rest of the house lights still on. I was sitting down kind of uneasy and just watching the stair rail, making sure nothing happened. And then I saw a figure run by so fast. I only caught a glance of it. At that, I called my mom and told her, and I knew someone was there, and I'd see someone. But I got the phone and dialed 911 just in case I needed to. And when I got to the top of the stairs, I heard the kids scream, and the lights were off again. I was really worried, but I had to check and make sure everything was okay upstairs. It went black up there too, but with the one light downstairs still on, I could see a shadow of someone. The lights went back on for a second and after I saw it, and the figure was gone. I walked down the stairs halfway, and when I got there, someone was sitting there. It was an old woman. For those of you who have read my other stories, and we haven't, so you know that I've encountered this many times now, and she did have white hair. She was in a nightdress, and she was shaking. I was so scared I didn't want the kids to startle her because she already seemed scared, so I leaned forward, and at the same time, she jumped up and screamed, "Please leave me alone." The kids heard too, and I backed away, and she ran out down the hallway, and she was gone. Yikes, that's creepy. I'm concerned about her and would like to try to help her, but I'm worried it'll only make things much worse. Well, that's all kinds of creepy. I don't know. You know, you have to feel a bit of sadness for a spirit that's stuck in such a state of just sheer panic. And I wonder if that's a situation of somebody having Alzheimer's or dementia and just, you know, their time went up, but they were just left in this confused state, not sure what was going on and what to do. So those are really sad because it's tough to think that someone is stuck in a really terrifying place, unable to get free and forced to be in a place that they don't understand and don't know what the hell's going on. I just think that's horrible. My grandmother had dementia before she passed, and it was really tough because, you see these people that are so proud and so strong and so. My grandmother was just this regal woman, just the sweetest soul, but she had such such a presence to her. It's hard to explain, but to see her diminish and become this shell of herself and confused and unable to make sense, unable to talk sometimes, it was just really sad. It was really hard to see her go through that, but I did have a dream vision of her after she passed, and it was really pretty sweet. It's not really the topic of tonight's show, but I've shared it before, and for those of you that are new to the show, basically, after she passed, it was really actually kind of relief because she was in such a state that it was like, okay, finally she's free, and just hoping she made her way to the light and was happy, and I had this really vivid dream. And after every people that are dear to me die, I have dreams with them, and they appear to me, and we talk, and it's so real. So, but she appeared first old, like I remembered her. But as she sat there in front of me, and it was in her living room, the dream was, she suddenly became young, and her hair darkened and got long, and her wrinkles faded, and her skin became supple and tight again, and she was beautiful. And now I'd never seen pictures of my grandmother through my whole childhood. My family has never been a big picture family, where you have 50,000 pictures of every walk of life. So I didn't know what she looked like. She'd always just seemed old my whole life because she already had, white hair by the time I came around. And to see her looking so young, and she said, I just want you to know, and you can let everybody know that I'm wonderful. Everything is great. Everything's okay. I'm okay. Everything's great. And then she said, you can tell your uncle too, but he won't believe you anyway, which is funny because my uncle's just this very stoic, logical, black and white kind of guy. I mean, the world is this, and there isn't anything else. He doesn't have any kind of faith or anything. And it was years later after that, like a year or two later, my mom was going through pictures and found some old pictures of Grandma, and I'm like, there she is. And Mom said, yeah, that's my mom when she was young. And I was like, that's how she was in the dream. So it was really cool to see that. But to think that there's a spirit that's stuck in that confused state and in that horror, to me, is just heartbreaking because, I don't know what that would be like. I hope I never know what that would be like, but I certainly would like to think that someone helps these people come home, that they aren't left to just wander. So anyway, there's a lot of things I don't understand about all that, but, what can I say? So I said I was going to try to find another one for you. So let me do that. Hold on a sec. I got to see where it is. There it is. Okay, this one sounds interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but it has to do with babysitting, so let's see what it has to say. Okay. Up until I was about 5 or 6, and this story comes out of 2008 in the United Kingdom. Up until I was about 5 or 6 years old, I lived in a house in Birmingham that wasn't in a very nice area. When we moved out, it was demolished to make way for a small industrial park. All pretty normal there, but that house was the center of a lot of ghostly goings-on based around me and my mother, and most often involving my deceased grandmother, who had passed away for about 15 years by the time I was born. My mother often says how I would disappear into my room for hours at a time, and before coming back and saying that I'd been playing with some lady, and she expected it was an imaginary friend of some sort and thought little of it, but what else was she meant to think? But one day my parents took me to my maternal grandfather's house for a visit, and I noticed a photograph, and I'd never seen before. And according to my mom, I pointed at the woman in the photo, and which was my grandmother, and said something along the lines of, "Mom, look, that's the lady I play with." This absolutely terrified her, not because she doesn't like the idea of ghosts, but because she didn't want Granddad to know what I was claiming to be playing with his dead wife, especially since before that time I had never seen a picture of her. This was before I turned 3 and got the patience to sit through family photo albums, and she had been aware of her mother in the house, particularly in the kitchen for some reason. Around us all, ghosts retreat to the kitchen when she was cooking, and so immediately I immediately thought that it had been her looking after me when she was too tired to deal with a child, a supernatural babysitting service, if you will. Sorry, I'm not reading this very well. I was a little distracted. There was another occurrence in my bedroom there when I was about 4 or 5 that terrifies me even to this day. If I think about it too hard, I couldn't sleep for some reason and was lying in bed bored out of my mind when I thought about reading a book by the light of the nightlight, and I was sitting on the floor quietly reading in an attempt to send myself to sleep, and when I heard really heavy footsteps coming up the stairs and onto the landing. Heading for my door, and thinking that I'd get in real trouble if I was caught, and anyway, it was getting a bit cold by this point, I naturally dove into bed and acted as though I was asleep. The footsteps stopped when they entered my room. I cracked an eye slightly open to see if they were convinced that I was sleeping. I know, forgive a kid's reasoning. And had the biggest scare of my life. There was a man there, his face in shadow because his back was to the light, and he was absolutely terrifying. He had really wild hair and some sort of twisted halo around his face. I think it was red, and had a long shirt on that was untucked from his trousers, and he was like a silhouette in 3 dimensions. The only color I could see was around the edges where the light was hitting him. To this day, just picturing him in my head makes my mind absolutely shudder, and it takes me ages to calm myself down. I use the most powerful guard any child has, a duvet, his blanket. Yanking it over my head, curling up to make myself as small as possible, I made my breathing as quiet as I could, and I lay there, listening to my heartbeat as I prayed to God or whatever was listening to not let the monster get me. Every time I closed my eyes, it was as if an imprint of the man had burned itself on my eyelids, so I kept my eyes open until they were watering, just so I didn't have to blink and see him again. He registered as a monster to me, and I was so utterly scared, even when I thought I should yell for help. I just couldn't let any sound escape my lips. Eventually, I fell asleep or passed out in terror, take your pick. I woke up the next morning to a nice, monster-free room, and I thought I might have made a mistake, that it was one of my parents coming to check on me. After hearing the noises, and so to stop myself working into a frenzy the next night, I asked them if they came in. Their answer was no. Both had slept like logs all night. That experience meant I couldn't sleep without the duvet over my head, over my head until I was like 15 years old. And even now, I imagine a thick, strong shield around me every night before I sleep, no matter how tired I am. I have 3 wind chimes and 3 dream catchers in a little triangle above my bed, too. Even if it doesn't do any good up against ghosts and monsters, at the very least, it helps me to sleep peacefully. I'm still not sure if I'm sad that a piece of my history was lost when the house was knocked down, or glad that no one else encountered that monster. I'm not sure if I ever will be. And that was another story. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these. I think they're a lot of fun. What do you think? Is that good enough for tonight, you guys? I'm asking you because it's actually hard for me to go to. It's always so much fun to get together with you guys and just tell stories and have this wonderful community that we have. But I think I don't find any more babysitting stories, so I think that's all of them. I think that's all they had to offer in my internet searching. But maybe I'll just find one more just because I love you guys so much. And this one's not too bad. Okay, we'll close with this one, ladies and gentlemen. So, one more story before bed. This happened about an hour ago and has been reoccurring for the last hour. This is from the United States, California, in 2007. Meaning it's still going on, but it has been stopped for about 10 minutes now. And I was on my computer doing some research for my homework, and I had my phone off because my friend kept on calling me, and I just got tired of it and turned it off. I mean, I really, really turned it off. I had it off and my music on and my room lights on and my computer on, and, well, you get it. I was researching and my phone started ringing. I answered it, and my friend called, and I talked to her for like a minute or so, and after I hung up, I remembered I had turned it off. I looked at it, and it was off. I called my friend on the house phone and asked her if she had just called, and she said yes, and she said she had called my cell phone. I was really creeped out, but I just said, okay, and hung up. A few minutes later, my music stopped playing, and I checked my iTunes for something was wrong, and nothing was wrong. So I checked my speakers. Nothing was wrong with my speakers. The volume dial was fine, and I was kind of confused at this, just as I had my ear right next to the speakers to listen for any static. The music started playing, and I screamed. Not because I was scared, but it was because it actually hurt my ear. I calmed down and was almost finished with my essay when my computer turned off and then turned back on, all in under a few seconds. But yes, I was upset at the dumb computer, but I was really more confused. Confused about my phone, my speakers, and computer. And I went to ask my dad if anything in the house was acting weird, and he said, no. Even if they were acting weird, it wouldn't explain anything. So I went back to my room to finish my essay, and again, But when I stepped into my room, I felt as if something was different. When I looked around, my phone was on. My iPod was on. My camera was even on. And it was weird. And when I looked around, nothing else was on. My computer was off. My speakers were off. My lights were off. And it was really creeped out. My speakers were off, like when they were on, the switch was on, but then it was turned off. I turned all my stuff on. My phone, camera, iPod, off. Huh. And now, here I am telling you about what just happened. Any ideas what just happened to me? Oh, and just so you all know, my brother is out of the house, and my mom is out shopping, and my dad is upstairs, so nobody was in my room except for me. Please tell me what you think. And I don't know. I think you've got somebody trying to get your attention. I think somebody's trying to get your attention. That's perfect, Lady Death. Thank you. Lady Death and Pixie always post these things, and that's really cool. If you have a story, if you have some kind of experience of your own and you'd like me to share it on the show, I just received an email story, and I'll be reading it on Saturday night, but the person was so sweet. It's like, well, the person was basically like, hey, if you ever get around to reading my story, not sure if you will or not, but, and it was like, wow, I just want you guys to know, if you guys send me a story, I'm going to read it on the air. I might forget about it just because I'm so disorganized, but I love reading your guys' stories. To me, those are the greatest. Those are the best. Second only to my own stories, and I like my own stories because I really know they're real. But I like your stories because I believe in you guys, and I know that if you're going to send something in, it's going to be something that meant something to you. And I believe that you guys are really contributing some amazing stories to the portal, and I absolutely love reading them. I love receiving them. So if you send them in, I will read them, but you have to send them in to me. But please send them in via email to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I will be thrilled to read your stories and share them with the audience. And again, if you don't want to be named, that's fine. Whether or not you're named on the air is not important to me. I can protect who you are. But if you'd like to share what happened, I would be honored to read your stories. So thank you guys for all of you that have sent them in. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here, all of those of you in the chat room. I absolutely appreciate it. And I really look forward to being back tomorrow night again. We are joined by Mrs. Deborah Varner, who will be here doing psychic readings to callers of the show. So the number that you're seeing on the top of the screen under the title Paranormal Portal, that works on Friday, Saturday nights. And I don't know how to put that up there so that people know, but every other night it doesn't. It's actually the network call-in number, but it's such a pretty frame that I keep using it for all the episodes. But call into that number, and the show will start at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So whatever that means to where you are, you'll have to figure out what your time zone is and what time it is when it's 7 p.m. Pacific time. But that's when the show will start, and it'll go till 9 p.m. I would advise you to call in early, hold the line if you do get through, and you will get through. And I promise you I will answer the calls in the order they were received. Now, one disclaimer. I can't tell Deb she has to get so many readings in per show. I'm not going to do that to her, and that's not fair because she does this of her, of the kindness of her heart. I don't want to give her any pressure that she has to perform. A reading takes as long as a reading takes. Now, these are not really in-depth readings for the most part, but she does a great job, and I don't want to push her to have to, get so many calls in per hour. So she does her thing, and it'll take as long as it takes, but I promise you I will answer every call that we are able to fit into the episode. So call in and be a part of the show, and even if you don't want to call in, just listen because it's really a great experience. Now, Deb does do private readings as well, ladies and gentlemen. So if you'd rather not have a reading on the air but would really like a reading, then definitely check her out. And you can find Deb on Facebook. She's got a group called Purple Mystic Readings by Deb on Facebook. Again, Purple Mystic Readings by Deb. And if you would like to schedule a reading with her, she has specific times that she does it, but she will work to be flexible for anybody. Just reach out to her and let her know what you can do and what times you have available, and she will make every effort to accommodate you. But you can reach her via email at purplemysticreader, READER, @gmail.com. And she's about the most wonderful person you ever want to meet. I mean, she's just a sweetheart. She's been doing this on the show for well over a year, and it's been a lot of fun, and she's helped a ton of people. And she just started doing these private readings as well. So as an additional piece of information, I promise you will not find a more reasonable price for readings. She doesn't do this to make bank. She's not cashing in. She does it because, quite honestly, everybody needs to make ends meet, and that's why Deb does do the private readings. But they are the most reasonably priced private readings you'll ever have, and she is really the real deal. So check it out, purplemysticreader@gmail.com or Purple Mystic Readings by Deb and Facebook. So but she will be here on the show tomorrow night. So tune in and have a listen, and I hope you guys are doing wonderful. Thank you all for being here and being a part of the show. Thank you to Pixie and Lady for minding the chat, not mining, minding the chat. And we'll be back tomorrow night. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night right here on YouTube, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, TFR Live, and iHeartRadio. So you guys have a great night. We'll see you then.